Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm as always your host, Rudy Robertson, and there's a hair in my mouth. Lovely. Yeah. We're not restarting that. Welcome back to the show. Today we have developer. What are your actually roles in the project?
So I'm the programmer and the composer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do all the animation, everything business related, and level design, game design type things.
Okay. Of the upcoming, we'll talk about maybe when at some point throughout the show, indie game Goldstained. So I guess, yeah, you already kind of introduced yourselves, but if you want to do a bit more of an introduction, go right ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'm Tommy. I'm the programmer from the team, and I've mostly just a self-taught programmer. I've been doing it since I was a kid, worked on lots of sort of hobby projects over the years, but never really taken it to actually making a full game. Sort of the typical, indie dev never finishes any projects, but now we've got a team and now we're actually finishing something is the dream.
Yeah, my name's Justin. I didn't really do much animation before working on games and such, but when Tommy and I reconnected after high school, we worked on game jams, and so I just continued forward. And after doing the game jams and we did well with those, we were like, let's do something bigger. So we started working on Goldstained.
So how many projects have you two done together? There's another member of the team, if I'm correct, yes?
Yeah.
How many projects have you done together before this one started?
So we worked on 2 game jams before this together. One was us two and another friend, and then the one after that was a project with the 3 of us who are currently developing Goldstained. It was a game jam, and then we realized, we work really well together. We're housemates. Let's do a proper game.
That does make it really convenient, and I said when we met, it's kind of like you can go and git blame people in person. If somebody's not like pulling their weight, you can be like, hey, knock on their door, like, we need this thing kind of done.
Well, yeah, definitely, but also, in the same way that it is like the biggest blessing in the world, it is also a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
We got to keep in mind at all times that we're friends first, and yeah, we just have to be careful about that. And this is to anyone that works on projects with their friends. You're going to hear stories all the time about working on something and then caring a lot about it, and then that straining your friendships or relationships. So just really keep that in mind.
Yeah. I think even if it's not something super important, even something like a university project, that can already be, especially like a really big project. Like, for example, in my final year, I had like an entire semester project. Something like that, if you're doing it with a friend, it can really start to like sort of strain that if either one person is not pulling their weight, one person is going down a route you don't really understand, or all of these things can sort of create a bit of tension.
Yeah, definitely.
No, absolutely.
It's just something that happens. Just keeping open communication about that kind of thing, and just even just being like after Sage when you came up to us after that event. There's no way that a team is going to do a crazy amount of work straight after doing a big grind to be prepped for the first in-person event. So we all knew that that production would slow down a bit immediately after Sage. But let's say that we weren't aware of that, and 2 members of the team, 1 member of the team isn't pulling their weight immediately after a big event. Then if we didn't have communication, if we didn't understand those type of things, it would have been a bit of a disaster.
What does the third member of the team do?
He's the environmental artist and the concept artist. So he does all the environments, everything you walk around in, and he does like character designs, enemy designs, and so he'll draw them up, maybe do like a rotation of them, or draw a couple of keyframes, and then supply it to Justin, who does all the rest of the animation for it.
Right. So I guess we probably should explain what the actual game is, and we'll go from there.
So Goldstained is a top-down 2D action-adventure game inspired by things like Hyper Light Drifter, Dark Souls, Legend of Zelda, old like 2D Zelda games, in which you're main form of progression is by unlocking new weapons and exploring new areas of the map using the abilities that those weapons grant. And the gameplay is all revolved around boss fights, fighting difficult enemies, exploration.
When I got a chance to play the game at Sage, I thought it was really fun. I like when you play a game at a con, there's like sort of a mixed bag. You sometimes have these like very early tech demos where they don't really have the game sort of fully realized yet. They maybe have like a core mechanic, but it doesn't really all fit together yet. And from what I can see, maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, from what I can see here, you've built out a very small part of the game, but that small part of the game does work quite well.
Yeah. So do you want
to? Thank you for kind words about it. I'd say for Sage we had a vertical slice of just the basic your first weapon, and when we say that the weapon forms will allow you to progress forward in the game, none of that was shown at Sage. It's like there's a whole core mechanic of the game that we haven't shown pretty much publicly, really. So it's very nice of you to say that it looks good or it feels good when it is truly just the tiniest nugget of actual what the experience is.
What I can say for sure is that the art itself is really good. Like, even if nothing else was there, the art itself is really, really good.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That's Phoenix. That's Phoenix. We'll pass along the words.
So, yeah, if I recall correctly, the build you had, it had the sword, and then you could use that as a thrown weapon. That's basically the mechanics you had.
Yeah, so that is sort of the main mechanic. It's actually sort of what started the game, was the thought of that. It was from like a little prototype that I had made of, like top-down sword combat, but you could throw the weapon and then like suck it back to you. And so that is sort of the main mechanic that every weapon will do, but in like a different way, and hopefully a different, interesting way.
Do you have any of the do you have any of the other weapons implemented, or are those just paper ideas right now?
We've got a couple of them semi-implemented, not completely, but we've been working on just some animations for some ideas of them, and the rest of them we've got a lot of ideas written down on paper, but not implemented yet.
Sure. What's another one of the weapons, and how is that going to differ from the main one?
Can we give the example?
I think we can give the most obvious one.
So, for example, one of the other weapons you unlock is like a big hammer. Heavy weapon, slow attack, and when you throw it, it lands on the ground, and then when you retract it back to you, instead of it coming to you, you will get retracted to it because it's so heavy. Is an example of how we do it differently, and so then that can open up lots of different interesting ideas for exploration and puzzle use.
I'd say that weapon is like the equivalent of unlocking a double jump. It's like the most obvious iteration of the idea.
On the Steam page, it does mention hot swappable weapons. So is the idea sort of like, in like a DMC game where you can frequently switch between weapons during combat, or is it more switching out of combat to solve puzzles?
Nah. Flick this weapon wheel on the right stick, flick the direction, changed.
Yep.
Make up your own combos, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay, I can definitely see how that can very quickly start to really sort of open up a skill ceiling.
Yeah, we really want to design for that sort of thing, letting people discover their own preferences of how they want to switch between them, and discovering advanced way to use the weapons and switching between them is definitely a core part of the game we want to let players do.
Okay. That does sound, again, what I said before. I think the base that you have here is already cool, and a lot of games where they do have these sort of expanding combat mechanics, it doesn't feel realized early on. A lot of games, the combat itself doesn't start to fit together until you start having a lot of those pieces. I think, at least with the vertical slash you had available, it already felt fun to play as it already was. So hopefully that, as you add more things, continues to add on to that. That's my hope with it.
Yeah, I think that's just a really important thing. Is each weapon should also just feel really fun on its own, because there'll be a lot of players who will pick their favorite weapon and then use that like 95% of the time, which is we kind of like hope that people have their favorite weapon, and they should all be fun to just use on their own whenever you can.
Yeah, there's a great thing that we have some pretty nice examples to draw from just within the genres. Obviously it's inspired by Hyper Light Drifter. The attacking feels great in that game. And then for people picking their favorite weapon and sticking with that, we love Monster Hunter. That's just there's so many amazing examples that we can draw from to just make sure that the player experience, no matter kind of their play style or how they do it, we hope, at least in the end, everyone's going to have fun playing.
So, what actually? This might be a sort of an interesting way to approach this. What actually goes into making a weapon feel fun? I know you're like very early in the project, but you've already clearly got something there. So, like, what are you actually doing that may not be immediately obvious when you just swing the sword?
Yeah,
like maybe some animation stuff that you've worked on.
It's a bit of everything. It is really truly like a bit of everything as far as how far the hitbox is. The frame data of the weapon is such a huge one, and then the extremes of the animation is also a huge one. An example that we can give is the sword right now is in a pretty nice sweet spot. It comes out on frame 4 at 60 FPS, right? A lot of games actually those type of weapons come out on frame 1. So it's just like instant. As soon as you attack, it instantly comes out, and that feels great. But for our type of game, because we have different weapons with different speeds and such, we wanted to give it even just the tiniest bit of wiggle room. It didn't always come out on frame 4. I think at the start, it was like frame 8.
Like it was way later.
Okay.
Like the start of the game, we were going like full like Dark Souls style,
Yeah.
like frame data. So it was like whoa, swing,
Right,
and then we've made it faster, and then we've made it faster twice since then, as we've sort of gone more towards the fast pace, like Hyperlight style.
Yeah. So it really is, I guess, a lot of experimentation and just keeping in mind the frame data, like just really, really thinking and just testing out, just always testing. That's what I say about anything, about game feel for anything. You will have an idea about how something should be. You need to test it. Like you need to test it and then change it, and then it'll change your mind.
Right.
But you need to test it.
Right, and I think also not just testing it, because you can sort of get yourself into a mindset of how it feels. I think we'll talk more about this in a bit, but actually getting other people to test it as well, because you can, especially with any of the rough edges, you can kind of sort of forget that those are there as you've done a bunch of testing, and sort of you maybe subconsciously play in a way that sort of avoids those problems. Whereas someone who's new to it, someone who's just picking up the controls, especially if they're coming from other similar sorts of games, are going to have some expectations about the way something should feel. And that's going to immediately tell you that something is either really good or maybe something's a little off. Like when I brought up that the animation locking, this is like there's debate about whether animation locking is a good or a bad thing. Personally, I like being able to dodge out of an attack combo, but it sort of depends on the way you want to build it and what sort of feel you're going for there.
Yeah, I think with animation locking, it's quite interesting because we actually technically do let you cancel attacks early. It's just not as fast as I think some games are.
Sure.
Because I definitely picture that more as like a sliding scale, not like you have it or you don't. Because we do, but it's like maybe the last 6 to 8 frames of an attack, you can cancel out of it, and so it's something that we can like sort of slide around earlier or later. Because I don't think any game would let you just like cancel like swing and then like frame 2 just cancel out of it. Like they would always do some amount of the swing first.
I'm sure there's some games which are like full animation cancel whenever, but yeah, no, I do see what you mean there.
Yeah, it also goes with just even the feeling of the animation in general, because you can feel like your animation locked if the full the full swipe of the attack has finished, and then it's during maybe there's like a really large reset period where the character's actually resetting from their swing, right? And your brain will immediately pick up that you'll finish the swing and your character's resetting. And if 80% of the time you're spending resetting from that swing, you can feel like you're locked in place as well. So there's so many things that go into just the basic game feel of a sword swipe and making it feel really good.
Yeah, animation's an area which I have very little knowledge in. I can sort of see the obvious things, but how I would turn an idea into something that actually works is something I just have never really explored.
Yeah. Turning an idea into something is if it's in your head, I would say, and it's a bit arbitrary in nature, and maybe you're not comfortable with taking something from your head and putting it onto, like, we use a sprite for pixel art, but putting it onto paper, whatever, getting it out of your head and putting it somewhere, then reference is your best friend. If it's close enough, it's good enough.
I guess you can always iterate on it as you go anyway.
Yep.
So, earlier you said that this was your first experience taking this to a con. Have you showed it off to, like, your friends before this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, plenty.
Tell about the Woodville concert there.
Yeah, so I guess we've shown it off to people once before, not to play, but I'm in a like local community concert band called the Woodville Concert Band, and our big like show each year is that we play video game music. We play a bunch of video game music, and with a big screen behind us that has like footage of it, and we play in sync with it, so it's sort of like a multimedia experience. And our director, he arranges most of the pieces for it himself. And so last year when we had it on, I was thinking, well, last year the theme was all Australian games. That was sort of the catch for that year. So I was like, well, we've got a bit of a game here. Can we chuck ours in there? And he's like, yeah, sure. So wrote up some music for that. So that was technically the first like public showing of the game. It was like a 2.5 minute trailer sort of thing with music. And yeah, that was pretty cool.
That does sound pretty cool.
But yeah, Sage was the first public like playtest of any sort.
So what was the response at Sage like? And I guess
it was really
also,
good.
Really
just
good. Yeah.
just straight up, like, just very, very, very good. We had a really big fear that because the game is harder, that it just wouldn't mesh well.
Right.
And also we had a longer demo. I think we had one of the longest demos that was like in the room for sure.
Because it was two separate bosses you could fight through.
Yeah, yeah. It was areas and a bunch of enemies and 2 bosses, and it's also a harder game. So people on average died like 5 times to each boss. So it's it was a bit of an experience. So that was a fear going in, that people wouldn't like it because it might not be the optimal conditions in which you've sat down to play a Souls game.
Right.
But in general, people really, really liked it. The feedback form shows some really validating data on just how people rated their experience on the game. It's majority 5 out of 5s, which is awesome. And yeah, it was a great experience. And our fear of it being too hard wasn't really necessary at all, especially on the second day. Because we did a little bit of a hot fix
between the 2 days.
Yeah. But yeah, it didn't end up to being a fear that was realized, because people felt like the difficulty was fair, which is really what you want.
What did you go to the con with? Sort of, what were the intentions of going to the con? Like, was it just for playtesting, or were you trying to do something else?
I think it was mostly for playtesting. I mean, there's always a bit of just getting some public not like awareness of the game out there, but mostly for playtesting. We have throughout development, we always have sort of things we're wondering about, like, oh, is this mechanic good? Is this one good? What's the difficulty like? What's the pacing like? And we can speculate as much as we want, and we can test it in the studio, but really until you get a lot of people who've never played the game before to play it, you can't know for sure. So there's that I think that was the biggest thing we got from it, was just getting validation or just good information on a lot of the questions we had about design.
You mentioned difficulty. Were a lot of people finishing the demo? Were people getting stuck on one of the bosses?
I think the feedback form shows that a majority of people beat the first boss
Mhm.
and went on and like didn't. So what the feedback form shows is, did you beat any of the bosses? So no. Did you beat the first boss? Did you beat the second boss? I think from memory, majority goes from they beat the first boss.
Right.
But yeah, it was a really it was a really mixed bag, because you sometimes get people that would, walk up, they play it for a bit, they realize it's not for them, and then they hop off, and it's like that is just kind of data that you just internalize and you take in, and you can't sort of see later.
Right. Right. Like, it sort of depends on why they're bouncing off as well. If it's a game they don't vibe with, or is there something that you've done that is sort of confusing about the initial startup?
Mm, I think our starts
Yeah.
for Sage was pretty on the money. Like, you kind of know what you're doing. I
Yeah.
think it's just not for them, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, I think I definitely found, at least from my experience of what people were saying, the people who liked this sort of game seemed to enjoy it, and they would play it for a while, at least get past the first boss.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to really really judge the difficulty of the fights, because this is the kind of game that I play. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
I've got like 100+ hours in a game like Hades, right? So it's hard for me. Are the bosses actually hard? The controls made sense. So, as like, with that in mind, I can't really fully judge the difficulty of the fight. Nothing, like, it took me like 1 or 2 attempts on the second boss, so it at least was that. But it's really hard
Yeah,
to sort of tweak that.
It's really hard. Honestly, I think in terms of like the boss's like moveset difficulty, pretty good. Honestly, most people were taking a few tries to beat the boss, but then would beat it. But I think the biggest thing we found after finding the bosses on the or after watching people play on the first day is that they just all had too much health. Because
Yeah, sure.
when you're
Yeah,
designing
yeah.
the boss, you play it a bunch. You feel like, oh, how long does it feel? Does it feel too long? Does it feel too short? And we know obviously developing it that we are better than most players because we're the developers, so we can beat the bosses faster. But like, to the extent that like we were probably getting like twice as many hits on every boss, and like we knew all the gaps to get them in. We knew how to dodge aggressively,
Right.
and so we realized it was feeling good for us, but it was just a war of attrition for regular players who could dodge the moves enough. But it was just taking way too long. So we like cut a third of the health off of both of the bosses on the second day.
Yeah.
We realized no, us as developers are closer to like someone speedrunning the game than just a good player, a player who's familiar with this sort of game. So we should feel like we are blitzing through them.
Yeah,
always.
that's like a really key realization, is if you've got a game where your enemies have health bar, it had the health bars. It's not like Titan Souls, which is an amazing game. I recommend people to really play that, where it's one shot you kill them, one shot you die. If it's not that, if it has health bars, and you're actually really good at the game, or you're developing the game, then you are way closer to a speedrunner than a normal player. Like you are pretty much a speedrunner. So the timing should feel like that.
Like, from my experience, everything like visually made sense. I think that's a problem that a lot of games have, where attacks don't have tells, and when it's like that, anytime you get hit, it just feels like the game is screwing you, right? I think what you've done, from what I recall, everything made sense. The different attacks were clearly differentiated with the wind-up animations, and whilst you're gonna get hit a couple of times, you might die a couple of times, I think everything made sense. And that, I think, is the sort of like first initial thing that should be there. Does it make sense? Because if it doesn't make sense, anything else you do after that point, like, it just kind of just feels like artificial difficulty.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely just one of the cornerstones of these sort of games is difficult, but it should feel fair. Like, you shouldn't feel cheated by anything.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's just really something that comes from playing those sort of games a lot. And then when you play test your game, you'll be able to get a better feeling of, does this move have a good wind up? Does it look distinct from the other ones? You just think about those things whenever you're designing them. And then as well, just little things in the game, like, always biasing hitboxes a bit in the player's favor, so that the player's hitbox is a bit smaller, enemies are slightly bigger. So, if it looks like, oh, you just might have got hit, it doesn't hit. Like,
Right.
because it's much better to feel like, oh, I just dodged that than, oh, like I should have just dodged that, but I got hit.
Sure. Yeah. Also, I think the use of color is very important as well. Making sure that your attacks are distinct from the enemy attacks, and especially the enemy attacks are distinct from the background, which is a problem that a lot of games do have. Great example, actually. It's a really good game, but the very final boss in Silksong, it is a black enemy with a black...
Hold on.
All I'll say...
Hold on.
Black
That's what it says, the black enemy.
Black enemy, black background, black attacks. That's all you need to know.
I haven't finished Silksong yet. So.
I haven't finished it either.
I won't say what
You're
the
banned
fight
for talking about
is.
Silksong.
That's all I will say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've thought about that a lot, and we've actually, specifically, I think some art stuff has been revised several times over the course of the game, so like the contrast isn't high enough. Like we can't distinguish it enough. I think the gold example of that is like Enter the Gungeon, where like bullets are bright white with a fully red outline always, like all the time. And obviously, if we go that far, it might like change the art style of the game. But we do definitely really focus on like backgrounds and environmental stuff more towards the midtones, and then characters and enemies and important things more contrasty, dark and light.
Yeah.
There was a good point brought up where we talk about the difference between allied and enemy, either projectiles or attacks. Because we are kind of using, obviously, Goldstained. We're using gold quite a bit within our palette, even for projectiles and attacks. Someone had commented that they thought that they could reflect the projectiles because they were the same color as the sword. And it's little things like that, which is honestly, it's an assumption that I never thought of. But it's little things like that are... Well, you can't. Firstly, that's not something in the game. And is that something we want to put in the game? I mean, maybe in the future. But if players are thinking that, then it's actually an issue. And it's an issue to do with color choice of projectiles.
Right. Well, I could imagine, like, one of the later weapons you unlock be a counter weapon, for example, where the throw attack is if you parry an enemy, then it doesn't attack back. Like, that could seem like a cool idea.
Yep. Yeah, there are lots, like the list goes on and on about so many crazy ideas that are fun and cool, and it's a very expandable. It's a very expandable like system. So
when you mentioned Enter the Gungeon there, that's a really fun game, and that's one of those games where readability is incredibly important, because for anyone who hasn't played Enter the Gungeon, it's a bullet hell game, basically. It's a bullet hell game with rooms the size of, like, Binding of Isaac. So it can get very, very chaotic. And that's a problem that a lot of games have, trying to, like, read what the fight is doing. Especially, this becomes a problem in a lot of realistic games, where they have a lot of particle effects, a lot of attacks, and so much going on where it becomes very easy to lose track of the player, lose track of the enemy, and... then obviously if you get hit from that, that's when, again, like I was saying before, it starts to feel kind of unfair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why I think that's probably why Enter the Gungeon decided to go with such a contrasty bullet, because it is a pure bullet hell, like really, really dense bullet hell game. Ours is probably more like bullet heck. You have to give it a name. It's like, because it has a bit more of like the melee combat dodging and weaving in and out, but there also will be some like, bullet pattern dodging stuff as well. So yeah, it's definitely important for our game as well. Probably don't need to go to the extent of Enter the Gungeon, just because it's the screen will not be filled with bullets like Enter the Gungeon.
Sure.
But yeah, it's absolutely still something to keep in mind.
Yeah. We will definitely be iterating on like our language of that specifically, of like of projectiles and such. Even on the next boss that we'll be working on definitely needs some very, very clear colors going on with the projectiles.
The second boss, I believe, was mainly melee boss, but also it had the spikes that came out of the ground. The first one did have some of that bullet aspect where it made like the circle that like went out and then like came back in. I don't remember the other attacks, but that one's sticking out of my mind. Yeah,
the first boss was completely designed as purely like a pretty much a bullet hell boss dodging, because at that point, like you got the throwing and retracting ability from that, so we really wanted to like show that in the boss, have the boss be using that same sort of ability.
So the bosses that you have right now, are those intended to be like early game bosses? Do you not really know what you're doing with them?
At the time we did it, yeah, they were intended to be like boss number 1, number 2. From feedback, things can shift around. We're probably not just going to get rid of them.
Sure.
Like, it just feels like a waste. It's a waste of resources to do that. But bosses can be shifted around. They might get shifted around.
Yeah, that's the great part about developing these kind of games is that as long as the patterns and the designs aren't absolutely completely rigid, there's absolutely nothing from stopping us from moving it to a different spot on the map and making it harder or making it easier. These kinds of things are fun to do, and it's fun to just shift things around, shift bosses around, shift things around where it's on the map. And I think it's something that you don't really realize until you work on a game like this. Like, you don't realize just how many things get completely moved from where they were at the start.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, what was a lot of the feedback you got on the game? What did people kind of feel like was good? What did they think needed a bit of work?
I think the main things that I noticed, I won't say everything, so you can say some as well, but like things that people liked, art, obviously. I think just the general combat and game feel, people were pretty receptive to. I think the things that were the most needed some work was just the lots of little polished things, like navigating around the world, dashing across gaps. It was easy to just getting the spacing of like dashing across gaps right. It was pretty easy if you're a bit off angle to just fall into the void and die, or some tutorialization things not being quite clear enough. I think it was a lot of just the little like bumps in the road as you're walking along.
Yeah. I mean, I think that really just summarizes it. From my understanding of reading through the responses, and thank you to everyone that played and gave responses and feedback. Like, it's the best thing you could possibly do to support projects like this when they're early. Is really just that, and it bodes well because the level design and a lot of these layouts aren't finalized. You can't finalize your tutorial area of the game until you've actually gotten through a large majority of production, because you don't know what things you need to tutorialize yet.
Sure.
Like, you know the basics, but you don't actually know like what skills a player needs to learn. So really the issue of the current demo being that bodes well because we know it's going to change.
Right, you're not really sure about how many mechanics you're going to add, how much you need to sort of like also introducing the, I guess, how mechanics can sort of mix together. Like, do you have to tutorialize the fact that you can swap weapons and then combo stuff together?
Yeah, it's stuff like that. I think even probably a slightly more accurate thing isn't the addition of mechanics. It's really adjusting or taking out stuff, because that's kind of the approach that we're more fond of, is saying, is this mechanic, does it have the depth that we want it to have? And if it doesn't have the depth that we want it to have, just kill it. Just kill it. It's not adding enough. Just kill it. The game will be fine without it.
Right, you don't want to have sort of mechanic bulk where you're adding things and then they don't really add anything to the game. It's just kind of adding it for the sake of adding it.
Yeah, like a big one that we noticed from the playtest was we had a stamina bar in the playtest, and it would drain down when you sprint, and it would use like half of it when you did a dash. And the idea, reason behind that was just add a bit more strategic depth to the combat. But we found that was probably one of the biggest things that people pointed out when they were playing. Is like, I don't really like the stamina bar. It feels like it's either not integrated enough, it doesn't do enough, and it's just kind of a bit annoying. So we've been rethinking that, and that's like do we really need it? Is it really adding that much to the game? And like swapping that around to something more intuitive.
Yeah. The answer was it didn't actually have the depth. It didn't have the mechanical depth. It wasn't that kind of game. So just kill it.
Yeah. When you got something like Dark Souls where attacks use stamina and everything uses stamina, basically, then it becomes an integral part. But for ours, it was really just for movement, and especially outside of combat, it was just kind of annoying because you dash a couple of times and then you have to wait for your stamina to recharge before you can do it again.
Yeah, right. Because like the point of the stamina bar was to stop players just spamming dash as much as they wanted.
Yeah, basically, because it was a combination of like we really like the feeling of going like dash 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 really quickly in a row, but we don't want the player to obviously just be able to do that forever. So we were like, all right, well, stamina it so you can only do it a couple of times in a row, and then potentially give players upgrades later so they can do it more times in a row. But yeah, we found it just in the end it just didn't provide enough extra depth to the gameplay to warrant having an extra bit of mental load for the player to keep track of.
Right. And when you tie it into the tutorialization of these mechanics, where we're going for the approach of trying to have encounters or rooms within your tutorial, say within your first area, that make these mechanics necessary or make them really, really important to use. And it just goes to show that we had a mechanic, we removed it. But having that mechanic in, if we had fully done our whole tutorial section and now we've removed it, well, we'd have to remove that section of it. Then it changes the flow of your first section of the game. It's stuff like that.
At least from my perspective, I don't think the stamina was necessarily bad. I do think it felt weirdly tuned. It felt like the timing of it didn't really make much sense. There were a number of times I went to dodge and then realized that I couldn't because the stamina bar was still recovering.
Yeah, I think there was certainly like things it was implemented functionally, but we definitely could have polished it up, added like indicators close to the character instead of up in the UI of you've run out of stamina or your stamina bar, so you have a better sense of how much you have left. Like that probably would have changed people's perception of it a bit.
Right, even a visual indicator on the player, something like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Something changes color.
Breath of the Wild style.
Yeah. We went through all these iterations. When you're going through these mechanics and these ideas, you go through a lot of this stuff and seeing what works and what doesn't, and what fits the art style of the game and the feeling of the game is the most important.
So it sounds like you're putting a lot of thought into sort of the individual aspects of the game. You don't really have... Do you have sort of a general outline of what the game is?
Yes.
But you're not really sure how the individual mechanics sort of fit together to make the outline happen.
I'd say you can't. It's like it is more similar to, we know how the full jigsaw, if there's 1,000-piece puzzle, we know what that 1,000-piece puzzle is going to look like at the end.
Right.
But we don't know how to cut up all the jigsaw pieces just yet. But we know how it is, and we have a good amount of pieces as well. It's just that there's a whole chunk left, and our job is to cut up those pieces into the shapes that we think are the most satisfying to put together.
Okay. I can see what you're saying there. So one of the things mentioned on the Steam page is a dual narrative. Experience the past in order to fight in the future. And obviously in the demo that wasn't really a thing because there wasn't really story aspects in the demo, besides obviously fighting two bosses, which I'm sure will have lore attached to them in the full game. What does that mean? What can you say that you don't, that won't, it's not too much?
Yeah.
I think you might just have to
I think
buy the game and find out.
Yeah, I think this is something that is a bit integral to your first experience when you play the game. So I think it's a card we want to keep close.
Okay. Well, I guess what can you say about sort of the scope of the game and what your sort of, I guess what can you say about the overall vision with it?
I'd say the scope is, so we've done adjustments to the scope to make everything modular. Every mechanic, every idea that we do boils down to making more content for the game. That's really what it boils down to. It's just making more bosses or more weapons or more areas. The scope doesn't increase in more cinematic cutscenes or this crazy idea where something else happens where we need to learn this new skill. So I think that's where we're at with scope is extremely modular. We know what it would look like if we could put in every weapon idea that we really want, every boss that we really want, and that. Is that going to happen? I mean, hopefully. But if it doesn't, that's okay, because it just means we'll have less areas, less weapons, less bosses. And all that really means as well is it's just a bit less game. and that's not a big deal in the slightest. It's like Elden Ring would still be an amazing game if you didn't have the snow in the north.
Right.
And snow in the north is a great time. It's a great area, but it would still be an amazing game without that area.
Right. Okay. At this point, how long has the game been in development for?
About 9 months.
Since late May of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So 8-9 months.
Maybe this is a hard one to answer. How long do you want to spend on the game? Because at some point the game has to be released.
Our general outline is like later this year we want to release a demo of some sort publicly, and then ideally 2 years after that full release.
Yep.
Are you thinking of doing early access with that, or no?
No. Yeah. So the for the public demo, the idea currently is to just put out like a really, really solid demo and then get more feedback. Just get like a massive amount of way more feedback. And have it go across pretty much all the mechanics that we want in the final game, and then take that on board
Like
and then
a true vertical slice.
that's a good way to put it. A true vertical slice. Take that all on board and then spend the next 2 years making the rest of the game.
With that, are you considering doing any sort of funding route, Kickstarter, getting grants?
Yeah, we have looked at a grant. We did one grant application before, and we didn't get it in the end. What I found with doing these grants is it takes quite a bit of effort, and it takes quite a bit of getting help from people as well. And it was time that was spent that I just really wanted to spend working on the game. And
Understandable,
yeah. And thankfully, we're in the position where we're working on it in our free time, and we're okay with continuing to do that. So I think it pretty much is just going to be a passion project. If the demo turns out really, really well for some reason, and it seems like Kickstarter might be a good avenue, that's something that may be open to. Yeah.
Okay. How much? I guess how much a week do you spend on the game?
It can vary. We don't have like a strict work schedule or anything
Sure.
that we stick to. I would say geez.
On like an average week.
I can tell you, Asebright on Steam. I got it on Steam to track my hours working on the game. I'm well over 600 hours on Asebright since May, and that doesn't include hours that I've spent in other software like Pixel Composer or writing in the Obsidian document or just purely in Godot. So I can tell you that since May, probably easily over 800 hours.
Yeah, I'll say that's pretty accurate. Because it's up. I wish I could try. I wish I had started using Godot on Steam from the start, so I could just track all my hours for it. But yeah, it's been a lot. I would say I try to do at least something every day. On it, obviously, you got to have break days, but I think I try to do something every day at least, and there'll be, I'd say at least there'll be a couple of days a week where I'm working on it for like several hours in a row. Usually we're in the studio here, maybe all afternoon, sort of thing. When we first started, like for the first month or two of development, because initially like motivation, it was like every free moment of our lives.
Yep.
For like 8+ hours a day, most days of the week, we're just like in the studio, just working on the game so much. It was crazy.
And then you realize games take a lot longer to make than you thought.
Yeah, and you realize, I can't keep that up. Like that doesn't work. Some people can, Team Cherry can keep that up, but they're freaks.
Well, they
very
also
fun.
had like $100 million to spend to like.
Oh, I'm talking about Hollow Knight. I'm talking about Hollow Knight, not.
Oh yeah, Hollow Knight 1. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because from what I've heard, they just kind of grinded like on that game for like 2 or 3 years and just didn't do basically anything else.
Yeah, when you're in high pressure environments, that's just how it works. We're not quite in that of a high pressure environment, which is which is a blessing in itself.
Yeah, as long as you can like find sort of external motivation. Some people are kind of people are very different about how they handle getting work done, right? A lot of people need that sort of external stimulus that can push them forward. Some people are really good at self-motivation. What about you guys? Like,
Yeah, I feel like you can't, for any sort of large project, you can't rely on motivation forever, because whatever it is, there's going to be times when you just don't want to work on it. So you have to figure out ways to just make yourself do it anyway, even when you don't feel like it, and just push through those times, because it'll happen. You know, there's times that I don't really want to work. I'm like, I'd rather do something else, but it's like, just get it over with. Like,
it's the thing you do,
keep going.
right?
Yeah.
I think for me, it boils down to skill development. It's I hate practicing just to practice, if that makes sense. I just don't like it. I need to have a project, or I need to have a goal in order to keep at the skill development. And that's why when we do the game, when I'm animating, or when we're doing whatever it is, it's like that's my motivator, because in the end I want to get really good at all the stuff that we're doing to make the game.
That's fair. That's fair. You've mentioned Godot in there a couple. Why did I say like Godot? Yeah, there we go.
Godot.
Godot. Yes, that one. I guess, yeah, we hadn't really talked about that side of it. Why was that the engine you went with, and what has the experience been like? Did you use Godot in those previous game jams, or is this like a new thing for the project?
So fundamentally, we used Godot because I use Godot and I'm the programmer, so that's what
Fair
we
enough.
stuck with. Yes, we used Godot for the previous things. I've been using it since about 2020, since I think Godot 3.1 came out. Before that, I used GameMaker, so used that throughout my teens. Before that, I used Scratch. If anyone knows Scratch, like the educational, like coding, drag and drop, like block-based stuff, I started using Godot in about 2020 because there was just things that I at the time couldn't do in GameMaker, or at least couldn't do in a way that I could imagine. And as soon as I sort of looked up a little bit about Godot, it just kind of made sense. The way it structures its scenes, the way it just organizes all of the information, it's made sense to me. And also, we just like open source software, so.
So I guess from the animation perspective, what has that been like in Godot?
It's pretty simple. It's got an animation player or animate sprite 2Ds, and it just has a graph, no, sorry, not a graph, a keyframe based system at the bottom. It's not anything that I would say is different than many other things. And also, I'm not very experienced in many other game making softwares. I used RPG Maker for a game jam. And I love RPG Maker. I actually love RPG Maker games. Those are some of my favorites ever. But the engine sucks, and doing animations in that engine sucks. It's really, really bad. So anything that isn't restricted to 3 frames for walk cycles, I'm happy with.
Well, I guess, what is the tooling like compared to like dedicated animation tooling?
I think it. You've been doing the animation.
We're working with a 2D pixel art game that uses like sprites, right? So my first step is taking a concept that Phoenix did of a character or an enemy, and I'd open it in Aseprite, and I do all the frame by frame in Aseprite. And in Aseprite as well, I changed the frame data, like with the amount of milliseconds each frame plays for, to just kind of be a bit similar to how I think it would be in the game. Export it out into Godot, and then put all those frames into the animation player in Godot, and kind of match roughly what I did in Aseprite. And then it gets changed a bunch, because once you've got it in game, it's different.
Sure.
But it is as simple as you have frames 1 to 10, and you put frames 1 to 10 in the thing, and then you drag them around for the timing.
Yeah, because it's a 2D game, we don't really need to use any advanced animation features like tweening and animation blending and all that sort of stuff that you would use for a 3D game. So really, I think any animation tool would be able to achieve what we need for our game. It is really nice. So obviously, having like a timeline sort of keyframe thing is really nice in Godot, because you can do more than just you can affect any property of any thing in the scene. You can call functions, you can do any of that, so it makes it very easy to add like logic tied to animations in the engine.
from the development side, how has Godot been? Because you've got quite a bit more experience with it.
Yeah, I think it's been really, really great to work with. I haven't really worked much in 3D at all in Godot. I've only really done 2D stuff, and for that, I think it's fantastic. Not without flaws, but definitely the easiest to work with that I found of any game engine. It has in terms of like coding and syntax and features like that, it has pretty much everything that I need for it. I just use the built-in language called
Yeah, I was going to
GDScript.
ask, are you using GDScript or C#?
Yeah, no, I don't use C# because there is a C# version as well, but I've just not used C# before, but it always, to me, it feels still like it doesn't have quite the same support and integration into the engine as GDScript is. And I really don't like having to switch between different windows and tabs and stuff when I'm working on something. Like even when we try to organize stuff on like Trello for things, like I hate having to open when I want to work on the game. I have to open two different things. I just want everything to be in the one, and I really like that the coding, the GDScript, you just edit it in the engine. I find it helps my workflow a lot.
I have a little bit of experience with Godot. I did like what's the Unity guy that did all the tutorials?
Brackies?
Yeah, I went through his Godot stuff.
Yeah, I saw he started that a couple of years ago.
That's pretty much the extent of the Godot stuff I've done.
Yeah.
As you said before, you sometimes start projects and then give up on projects. That was exactly the state that I was in.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a universal feeling that any hobbyist developer can relate to.
Before that, I'd done a little bit of Unity stuff back in university, and Godot, I'm no professional with Godot, but from my experience with it, it all basically just made sense.
Yeah, I find it really nice. It's very lightweight compared to a lot of the other popular engines like Unity or especially Unreal. Like it's a small install, the game's export small. It just kind of does everything. It has the right level of abstraction for me, that it just does the things that I need to do that I don't want to have to program myself, but it also just gets out of my way when I need to get out of my way as well. Yeah, it's just very comfortable. It's not perfect. Like there's a couple of things that I would like them to improve on. Which, for example, like shaders, 2D shaders and the 2D lighting system can be a bit of a pain to work with. Something like you can't put multiple shaders on a single material in Godot. You have to just combine the shader code for them both into one. So there's no multipass shaders. And like there's some weird like lighting restrictions on dynamic lights in the game that can make it very hard to make more detailed lighting scenarios in 2D. So we've ended up just programming our own lighting system for the game, which is still not perfect because it's just part of it's definitely just my like lack of experience working in GLSL, I think it's called. But yeah, it's certainly been the bit that I've like gotten the most like about is just trying to get shaders to work the way I want them to.
Yeah, shader math is I've watched a little bit of shader math videos, and it's just like that. Yeah. I can see how this makes sense. I can't wrap my I need to work through some of the examples to really like
to just be a big thing I hear from anyone. Like I've got friends who do a lot of like shader and GPU based programming. It's programming for the GPU just sucks. It's just bad. Like who invented that stuff?
So you mentioned that you guys like sort of open source stuff, and I did obviously we talked about this when we were at Sage. You do have the Linux version here as well. So I guess talk a bit about that.
Well, in terms of like making the game on Linux, Godot itself is open source, so it's been developed. A lot of it has been developed on Linux, so there's not really any problems there in terms of using Godot, and it just natively exports to PC, Mac, and Linux. So it's in terms of that, it's not hard to get your game on Linux. I kind of just switched to it because, like a lot of people, I'm a pretty casual Linux user, but I switched to it just because Windows pissed me off. So. Just download Linux Mint, use that now, and it hasn't really caused any issues. But yeah, I'm not as much on the technical side of it. Just kind of use it to achieve my own goals.
Right. It's a tool for you rather than sort of interest in Linux itself.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I think for me, like I have like a home media setup with Proxmox. I've gone down the rabbit hole. I really do like using Linux, but the computer that we're on right now is Windows because I use it for audio, and that's just the one part. Like I cannot fully switch to Linux no matter how much I want to, just because I love Ableton. I love Ableton. It's my favorite DAW by far. Reaper is great, but I just love Ableton. And until there's something similar on Linux, I will always have to have a Windows machine.
Right. Yeah, this is like, especially from audio people, this is something I hear quite often. If your experience learning is with one tool and that's the tool going to something else is just going to be a pain. Like I know Mac people, or I know Linux people who have a Mac specifically because there is one tool they need that is only on Mac, and they could bring things over. But then how long is that going to slow them down for? How long is it going to take them to relearn everything they could do before? Can the new tool do everything they could do before? And then if it can't, then you have to find your workarounds. And I get why that's like a pain to do stuff.
Yeah, it's just very specifically in the audio world. And yeah, specific plugins, whether they're supported and whatnot. But I am hopeful as far as Linux support for audio, just because Linux is very much, obviously in recent years, way more adopters, and the more people involved just means that there's more value in that market, so companies will start supporting it.
Mm-hmm. Random little side tangent, but did you hear that Valve basically had to put like a hold on the Steam Deck because of RAM shortages?
Really?
No,
I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
No.
The Steam Deck is basically just sold out in a bunch of regions, and the Steam machine, we don't really know what's coming. We don't really know what pricing's going to be like because of the RAM price issue.
Damn, that sucks.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky. I got a Steam Deck. Obviously, you saw it at the booth, so I'm lucky that I've got one. But that's a whole nother topic that is fully connected to, like, obviously the hardware software. We're very much on the software side of everything, but yeah, hardware is super connected to it. And I'm just really not liking the situation going on, because if it's harder to get hardware, then it's harder for people to access the cool software that we love, whether it's tools to make games or the games themselves, or DAWs to make music. Like, it just makes everything harder.
Yeah, I think it's CPU sales like 65% down last quarter, so yeah. But hey, at least this game is probably going to run on basically anything.
Yeah,
yes.
we run it on a like a little Windows mini PC. Runs fine. Like,
yeah, it's a pixel art game, and although it does run like full res, it's pixel art. Like, unless you're running heaps and heaps of like complicated shaders, we'll be fine.
You do have like minimum specs written on the Steam page. Are those just like nonsense? Because it's like you've got like a 4870 and 8800 GT. Like, what are these specs?
What did you put on there?
All right, so I will say I'm the person that does the export to the Steam build and the Steam page and whatnot. And I think I just went to Unsighted and Hyperlight Drifter, because those are two similar games to ours. They just went to those, and I just copied it. It's just like, because what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go out and test it on random really bad hardware? I don't know. It's also like, our game should run better than some other stuff that's similar, just because we've done some specific things that like should be optimizing it just a tiny bit more. So yeah, it's all made up.
Okay, well, you don't have like a demo or anything published anyway, so
Yeah, I guess I was gonna, because I was just thinking, like, how do people actually make those minimum requirements? But I guess demos, getting people to report what their system specs are and how the performance was.
Steam is I don't think it's been added just yet, but they are adding reviews that include hardware specs.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's very useful.
I don't know if that was like available in like the developer side beforehand, like the developer could see that, but now it's actually going to be on the public review.
Okay,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's always useful. But I think in general for us, I know that we probably haven't had specifically talked about it, but I for sure have been on the side of making your game as accessible as possible, as far as what hardware it can run on within reason. Just the fact that one of my favorite games of all time, it's Outer Wilds, struggles a bit on the Steam Deck, and you've got to change the settings. Like that's a bit unfortunate, but it is also like, that's a whole different thing, because without the things that made it struggle, it would detract from the experience of the game.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
But then I think about another game that I love that runs perfect on Steam Deck, Tunic. So and Tunic is beautiful, but it's low poly, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So I think just in general, kind of have a trend of really wanting to make sure that the games are accessible.
Yeah, that is like such a problem you see with a lot of big AAA stuff now, where it's like, oh, the minimum specs are a 4070. It's like, is it really a 4070, or are there optimization problems with the game?
Yeah, it's definitely become a big issue. As I think just top specs have become higher and higher. It just means, oh cool, we can be twice as lazy with the optimization of the game,
Right,
sort of thing.
Yeah,
when you look back to like PS3 games or PS2 games, like how little specs they had to work with, and they just squeeze every like little morsel of performance out of those things they can.
Mm-hmm. Well, the PS3 had 512 megs of RAM,
Yeah,
and that ran GTA 5.
yeah, like ran GTA 5.
And
or
Skyrim.
like you look at, or like on the Xbox 360, like you see like Halo 4, like that game looks like brilliant. No comment on the actual game itself, but it looks amazing. I don't know how they made that thing run on an Xbox 360. Like,
yeah, I've said it before, but like limitation breeds creativity. Now that computers are so powerful and there is so much that you can do with them, it sort of lets you write games quicker, right? You don't have to hyper focus on how your particle system work and how your projectile system work. You can kind of sort of let some bad design get through there. But it does mean then that the specs of the system sort of raise up, and as also we have these game engines that do more and more and more, it also by definition means that a more general feature is going to be less optimized because it needs to be able to do more things.
Yeah. I usually try to keep a bit of a middle of the road approach when I'm developing the game. If something seems obviously unoptimized, I'll try and fix it early.
Right.
But there's stuff in the game that's probably not as optimal as it could be. But when we run into the issue, we'll fix it. Because luckily, I also develop the game sometimes on a MacBook, which currently it can just about run the game at 60 FPS. But like if a scene gets more complex, it'll probably start lagging. So I think it's a good benchmark to have. If it starts lagging on that laptop, maybe I need to check things out.
You said that you guys had like about an hour slot to do this. We've just passed the hour mark, so I'm not really sure how much time you guys.
It's fine. We'll go on for another 15 to 20.
Okay, cool.
It's easy.
Yeah. Okay. Easy. I just forgot what I was gonna say then.
Talk about optimization.
Yeah. Optimization.
Old games, MacBook.
Something. I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
But dude, we had the funniest bit of optimization. Remember the loading with the particles?
Yeah.
In the trees?
Yep. This is hyper specific Godot nonsense.
It's just a hyper specific Godot, or just general ticking a box in a game engine that we forgot about. We were having really big issues with loading times, but going between just different rooms in the game. It was sometimes taking up to a second or so to just fade to black, wait, and Peter was like, it just feels bad. How do we improve this? And it took I spent days and days. I wrote in a multi-thread parallel loading the next zone as you approach it before you get to it, so decrease the loading times and all this stuff. And it still wasn't really fixing it until I realized that every single tree, which make up the borders of the whole forest area, they all had several leaf falling particles emitting on them, and I had ticked them to pre-process 4 or 5 seconds of particle emissions when they're first loaded. So there was 500 trees all pre-processing several seconds of particles. So it's probably 2,000 or so particle emitters all doing it. And so it was just that. Until that, done. No loading time at all. But that was after 3 days of struggling, and it was oh my god. I don't even need this whole I've kept the asynchronous loading system in anyway because it's still good to have.
One step closer to open world.
This
game.
guy wants it to be an open world.
One
game.
step closer to open world game.
I love when they
Yes.
say, "Hey Tommy, here's a cool idea. Add it in." I'm like, "Oh boy."
make it open world. Make it 3D.
Oh, we tried that as well at one point. That's another thing actually that Godot can't really do the way we want. Is some games, Enter the Gungeon for example, are 2D games, but they're actually running in 3D. Not in the way that Unity is just like technically always in 3D, but in the way that they actually have like the ground and characters and stuff actually be 2D sprites, but like in 3-dimensional space, and they use a certain camera perspective to make it look 2-dimensional.
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you look at Enter the Gungeon behind the scenes, it's actually fully 3D, and it uses a certain camera perspective called an oblique perspective, which is similar to like an isometric view where there's no perspective warping, but it also sort of stretches the view out vertically a certain amount so that horizontal and vertical faces both are like square. So like if you were to look at a cube from a 45-degree angle, it would be like a full square and then another full square. So it looks like what 2D pixel art top-down games actually do. And that's just another thing you can do in Godot, unfortunately. But it really makes it, a lot of developers do it because it makes it easier to deal with like depth tools and like sorting sprites in front and behind each other because they're actually just existing in 3D space. So it just kind of works. Or like if you want like 3D lighting, like nice like lighting and shadows in your game, you can just do that. Yeah, but it's unfortunately something that you just can't do in Go.
I will 100% look out for that the next time I play the game.
Yeah, you can't tell. You cannot tell in the game. But I think the developers, for example, gave the one of the reasons they did it, like it makes it easier to do, say, a long laser attack, because in 2D you have to sort of figure out how you want to sort sprites in front and behind each other to make it look 3-dimensional. So the general way it's done is in a fully proper 2D game like ours is if a sprite is like higher up on the screen, that means it's behind a sprite that's lower down on the screen. So you draw it behind, draw it in front, and that generally works. But if you have, say, a long sprite, like a long stretch sprite of a laser, it might, if it's going like a diagonal, it might need to be in front of certain things and behind other things. And if it's just one sprite, it has one origin point that it determines its like height from, and so you just can't do it. But if the game's 3D, it just kind of works because it's just 3D. So yeah, things like that. If there's any Godot contributors, add oblique camera perspective to Go. I'm sure it's an easy 2-line fix.
Godot contributions are actually going through an issue right now because of AI. Yeah, there's a lot of AI slop requests going on.
Oh damn.
Yeah, yeah. So this is it's a whole I wish someone some stranger contributed to Godot and fixed all of our issues.
Oh yeah, I wish if someone could just fix all the things we do, because I don't want to have to learn C++ and do it myself.
So, from your perspective as the developer, have you ever like worked with other people outside of the game jams? Like, had you ever worked with other people, or are you? No. So what is it? What is it like from your perspective to have members of the team who are not programmers who are like, "Here's an idea. Can we do this?" Like, what is that like?
I wish everyone would get out of my way and let me make my vision. No,
make it open world.
No, it's good. Overall, yeah, experience of working with other people is really, really good. It's so nice being able to just have other bits of the game taken care of, and then I open it up and there's new things, and I just get to write the code to make it work. What was the question? I forgot the question.
What was it like? Sort of.
I can add a bit. Something that is good because Tommy's a programmer is concepts of bosses or enemies or stuff need to be funneled through him because he's the one that implements it. So he has to think about it in a way of how does this work in the game. And for example, on a recent boss, I went through about 3 iterations before I even brought it to him because iteration number 1, I was like, okay, this is cool, but it doesn't work in this style of game because it requires too many animations of rotations of the characters. Something along those lines. Iteration number 2, okay, how does that work with these floating parts? Oh, they're not omnidirectional enough. Iteration number 3, blah blah, and okay, now I think it's ready to kind of. Now I think it sort of has aspects of it taken care of, so it can be implemented in the game. I show it to Tommy, then he looks at it, and then he goes, yes, I see you at iteration number 3, but still we need to go to iteration number 4 because it's not there yet. And that's a gap that I don't cross because I haven't implemented any of that stuff before. It's something that only the programmer can do.
Yeah. Like, yeah, there are obviously going to be things where people suggest stuff, and I'm like, look, that if we want to take a 4-month detour and maybe it'll work, then sure. But for the most part, I think we all sort of, to an extent, we all do bits of every section of the game development. Like, we all do some level design, some story stuff. Like, there's definitely overlap and stuff. But I think we all are able to understand, like, when one person has like the expertise in an area, and just be like, all right, you get the, like, if there's like, disagreement or stuff at some point, all right, you get the final call on that because it's your aspect. Like, there's been boss designs where, I'm like, I don't really feel it, but the artist feels it, and we go back and forth, and eventually like, oh, well, you're the artist, you get to design it, like, this is what it is. And so same with programming stuff, like, we'll be like, oh, can you get this, can we make it do this, or can we make it do that? And open world, can we make it an open world game? Can we make the lighting be a billion times better? But some things just
I can see that sort of. It's like, can we do this thing with the lighting, have this emit this certain thing? You're like, okay, how do I do this with shader effects? Like, what can I actually do here?
Yeah,
what do I know? Not just what can be done, what do I know how to do, and what is feasible to work out how to do? Because some things, like, you could do anything you wanted with this game, but it's a matter of, do I know what to do with that, and do I even know where to begin to break down that problem?
Yeah, like, how easily does it slot into existing systems versus how much does it require making new systems versus how much does it require completely rewriting existing, like, systems in the game, sort of thing.
So it sounds like there's sort of, it sounds like there have been these cases where it's like, someone has to just make a call, like, this is what we're doing, like, we can't just do everything.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I think for the most part, usually we're able to, like, reach an agreement on something. We're none of us, we're not, like, unreasonable people. We can come to those sort of conclusions.
It has to be open world.
Open world. Another thing I'll say as well, just circling back to, like, just how is it working with other people on a project. It's been really fun in the sense that I have to create tools for the others to work within the engine that don't require them to, like, go into the code, like making stuff in the inspector, and it's been really fun actually designing tools and things that are intuitive for the others to use, like the lighting system, or can't think of any else right now, but there's others, like
where something has shadow or not.
Yeah, whether something has shadow or not, or just like making it easy for the artist to go around and do environmental art and adding lots of, like, it's fun. Just, it feels like I'm almost like expanding on the engine, just doing Godot things with export variables and adding buttons and stuff that make it feel like, oh yeah, it's like, it almost makes it feel like a library, like a forget the word for, like a code library sort of thing. Like, you add your own extra functionality to the game. It's really fun. It's not something that I would usually do if I'm developing something myself, because I'm most comfortable just kind of doing it in the code.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, like, it's really fun when they're like, hey, can we have, like, this system so I can do this? I'm like, oh yes, it's quite fun. It's very fun to think out how to make it work well for the others.
Okay, fair enough. Right now there isn't, like, a trailer or anything on the Steam page. Is that gonna come when you guys get the demo ready? What is the plan there?
We're thinking we probably just won't do a trailer for the game.
Yeah, I think we have the minimum 5 screenshots on the store page, and have them of other games.
If the minimum 5 if that can't sell the game, then the game's not good enough. No.
There will be a trailer. I don't think we're super settled on the timing of when that trailer will come about and such. But we want to be at other local conventions and things like that. It's obviously just helpful to have a solid trailer.
Just have gameplay footage on the Steam page as well.
Yeah, gameplay footage. You have your GIFs in the about page. We don't have that. There's an endless
yeah,
list.
I've seen the resources that Steam asks you for if you want to make a game page.
Yep. There's an endless list of things that are, like, it can be done as far as, like, the marketing essentially of the game, and it'll never end. It's just kind of, I think realistically what will happen is, when we have a deadline for an event or something like that, and we go, oh, we really want a trailer before we get to this event, that's when it'll happen.
Okay. I don't think the list has been announced, so maybe you can't say if you are. But are you hoping to do AvCon?
Yeah. Well, we're hoping to do AvCon. I don't even think the applications are really open. Currently, it's just an expression of
Oh,
interest.
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, we're hoping to do AvCon. And we've been asked about PAX as well. And that's a whole other thing where if apparently there's a possibility of getting funding, like travel funding for PAX.
Mhm.
If that comes about, then that's awesome, and we'll do that. If not, we won't, and we'll just continue working on the game. It's a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I keep going as long as we need to, but like you guys did say it's like another 15 or so minutes, so maybe it's probably best to wrap up now, if you reckon.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. I wish you both the best luck with the project. I wish the other member the best luck as well, and what I got to play was really good, so hopefully if you end up at AvCon, I will get a chance to play it then. And yeah, I think the game is really good, at least from what I got to play. Maybe, I don't know, maybe things change later, but at least what I got to play, you're on like a really good path, and it's really fun. So I assume that you guys have a good idea for the rest of the game. So hopefully it goes well, and hopefully it sort of hopefully it gets the attention I think it kind of deserves. Like if you keep going down the route you're going, I think this is going to be a really, really good game.
Sweet.
Thanks so much. Yeah,
thank you very
really
much.
appreciate it, and thanks for having us on the show as well.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. You don't have like a website for the game or any social media for the game yet, do you?
That will Lantern Jump is a studio name, and lanternjump.com. That's our website for
it's not
the
linked
game.
on the Steam page.
Oh, sadly not. But lanternjump.com, where there all the social media is Lantern Jump. That's the studio name. That's what we're releasing Goldstained under. And yeah, check it out.
What a very basic Steam page this is.
Oh yeah,
it works.
Oh,
It is a web presence.
It is.
Oh yeah,
It is the ability for people to wishlist it at the moment.
That's all. That's all that matters. The only thing that matters is that they look at the Steam page and they wishlist it. That's the only thing.
We created it before the performance when we had like the music playing for the game. We were like, it'd be good to just have a Steam page so if people see that they can look it up and wishlist it. So we created it Justin created like a couple of days before that event, just so that was literally why we created it at the time we did, and it hasn't been touched since.
Okay. Well, maybe just go and add like the social media links and the website link onto the Steam page, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the process to do that is, but yeah.
I would be there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Nothing else you want to mention? No, we were kind of already touched on demo and stuff. Like nothing that's coming up you want to mention?
Look, nothing specifically about our game or our project because we're not crazy long, but just in general for people that make stuff. I think there's a huge thing that happens where you get stuck in like watching tutorials or consuming content about making the thing. Hopefully, if anyone is watching this on the second monitor or whatever, or they're paying close attention to it, look, come on. But hopefully you just make a thing, make a cool thing, and show it to someone. Don't show it to someone. I don't care. I don't care what you do with it, but just make stuff.
Yeah, making a thing is like the best way to learn a skill.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, it was a pleasure to have both of you here. I'll do my outro and then we'll sign off.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Okay, so my main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. Sometimes I stream there as well, testing out various things. I've been lazy with streaming, but I stream on the gaming channel as well. That is Brody on Games. Right now I'm playing through Shenmue and also DMC5. If you're watching the video version of this, you find the audio version on basically every podcast platform at Tech Over Tea. There is an RSS feed. Check that out if you like that. And the video is YouTube Tech Over Tea. Also, there is Spotify video if you like Spotify video for some reason. I'll give you both the final word. What do you want to say? How do you want to sign us off?
Oh.
This is my favorite part. I never tell anyone they're doing this.
Do you have an idea? My name's Justin Rasholi. I'm the animator and one of the 3 people working on Goldstained. And thank you very much for having me. And I'm excited to release the game eventually and also see what people make.
What he said.
But your name as well.
I'm Tommy. What he said.
Incredible. You don't care
Wish
about the
list
third
the
guy?
game on Steam.
There's another guy?
Yes.
Doesn't matter?
And the third member who you can imagine is between us here, Phoenix.
Yeah, perfect.
Phoenix, our artist, a beautiful man.
Amazing artist.
Incredible. Okay, I'm just gonna stop the recording.